Okay, I think we're live. We're live! Everybody. It's Porthole to Justice! Alright, we're gonna play some Zeph Daniels music. It's gonna be awesome. Show. I'm gonna get Lotus on Spreaker.com. Stand by, everyone. Stand by.
Come in the window, take what you have. Stand up for yourself. Stand up for yourself. Stand up for yourself. Stand up for yourself.
Woohoo! That's Zeph Daniels, War Drums. Tune in. You can tune in on Anti-NWO Tunes on Facebook. You can also tune in on Spreaker.com. You can subscribe to Zeph Daniels music, which is awesome. Alright, let's get Lotus on the line, everybody. It is Sunday. This is Porthole to Justice, the window to the truth, and I am your host, Amelia Duran. Ms. Lotus! Yo, we're live.
Hey, how are you doing this beautiful Sunday?
I'm doing fabulous. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't even believe. Seriously, I can't even comprehend that this many people are tuning into the Porthole to Justice. It's awesome.
I think people are waking up.
Yeah.
If I keep teaching long enough, they'll figure it out.
Oh my gosh.
The message hasn't changed in years. I've been saying the same thing. It's a really difficult concept.
Well,
it's
like I have these treasures, these people that I collect that I love so dearly, which, some people collect art, and I collect
good friends.
I collect good friends. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And that's really all you should collect is good friends and people that share your morality, really. I mean, that's one of the things I learned in politics is that they would send me into these groups of people who were basically in opposition supposedly to us, to what we were promoting, which was actually a conservative, liberal agenda is what it was. It was more like a social conservative in a way. We were conservative, financially and with the government. We believed in the Constitution, but we believed also in the freedom of expression that comes with such rural society. So we'd go in there and I'd speak to people, and they'd be like log cabin Republicans, like really extreme from what we were promoting at the time, or where I was emotionally at the time. And I would find out that we were in agreement in 90% of what we believed personally. And there was only a few topics, less than 10% of what we would discuss politically. I mean, we could discuss the whole broad spectrum. And I found out that I was able to go into these places and connect with that 10%, with everything but that 10%, because I would point out that 10% usually was created through divisiveness in the politicking of things and the propaganda and the lies, and that it's actually very contrived. Most people in this country disagree with very little between each other. We agree about 95 on the whole, about 90 to 95% in America. Even immigrants that come here, for the purposes of exercising the freedoms here, not people who come here to be subversive, but people who come to America, and I didn't say the United States of America, I just said America, the construct, but to come here for the freedoms, we agree upon 90 to 95% of things. It's only a very small percentage that we disagree with. And the state of things tends to create a really divisive nature with that 10% for the purposes of basically effecting fraud upon it, thus as groups of people that people are coming to understand that it's not the instruments of government that are bad. The government is designed and inherently constructed divinely in my mind to do exactly what it's supposed to do. What we find is there's a vacuum in the balance of power because you've had a coup within our government that has tried to undermine the rights of the fourth branch of the fourth crown of government, the American people. The American people are actually a branch of the government. It is recognized within the law, within the Constitution, and even by their case law in their corporate Supreme Court cases. The American people are the fourth branch of the government, but they're also they're the alpha, and they're the last name, but they're the zero branch too, because the American people created the first, second, and third branches of government, and that's for the fourth as well. So we're the alpha and the omega, and people fail to understand that what you have is you have a very small, select few people in the grand totality of the way the whole world, a very select group of people have been manipulating the neutral states of government that are supposed to be operating within honor and under the law, and by the will of the people to affect a good republic, keep the public in good standing, keep us all safe, provide for us, provide for our health, provide for our education, provide for our safety. And if you do that, then we will allow you to do with the estates, our jubilee, what is best for all of us. Willfully, that's the grant. When they walk out of that, they turn around.
But what we have, though, currently as our reality is a lot of smoke and mirrors.
Yes, it's a paradox. It's a fraud. It's a fictio. It's a mask. It's a persona. It's a person. And the word personam, when I speak of improper personam,
they actually celebrate this mask once a year, and they celebrate it in Italy, where everybody wears masks, and they know it.
Right, it is a persona.
They laugh at us.
Well, and here's the deal: if you as a living flesh and blood man, okay, when you're on the internet and you go to a website and it says, "We want you to answer this to make sure you're a real person. You're real. You're not a computer." Okay, computers don't perceive the distinction between fake and real because they're fake. They are themselves a fiction. Only fictions can only see fictions. So, what this whole divine manifest destiny of the evolution of law in this realm, which the United States of America and the American people, who are, in my mind, the chosen people,
what I'm trying to paint here is, we have this Illuminati card game, and right. The world is your stage, Shakespearean persona, and then we have the actual festival in Italy, where people actually wear masks.
Well, they have
and all the world is a stage.
Yes, the Divine Comedy, C-O-M-E-D-Y versus C-O-M-I-T-Y, ha, the Divine Comedy. But the point of this is that they set up the fiction so that only the righteous can see. See, this is what people do. They're like, oh, this is a fraud. Yes, it's a fraud. Some people don't see the fraud, though. And the ones that don't see the fraud do not earn the kingdom of heaven. That's kind of the point here, folks. I mean,
I've been getting a lot of flack online. I don't know if you noticed, but a lot of people don't like my show and what I'm saying.
Well, they don't like me either. I get punched all the time. Remember, I get attacked, and that's part of the game. They like to silence the people who speak the truth, and they need to silence the truth speakers. Okay, I hearken back to this all the time when I speak of Nazi Germany, and I talk about people forget. They try to say it's the Jews. No, the class of people that were exterminated in Germany, which some were not Jews. They were called asocials, as in asocials, meaning those people who do not conform to the societal norms at that time that were imposed by a fascist state of totalitarianism. Okay, so they got rid of dissidents. They got rid of the artists. They got rid of the philosophers. They got rid of the dissidents, not the Jews. They want to put the Jews in there. Again, that's an obfuscation. There's a little bit of truth in everything they say, fed with a whole lot of malarkey, because they have to give you little crumbs like the kids through the forest,
exactly. Oh my God.
But the truth is that it's a pair. Remember, everything's an allegory and a metaphor. We're talking about the veil of Lilith. Well, we're in a veil. That's a persona, a mask. When a woman wears a veil, that the veil is the mask, is it not? So we're in a masked reality where what people are saying to you who are reprobates is this way, and it does logically flow in the law. The law is very proper here. There is very little of the law in the constitutional high law, the Fourth Crown Law, or the law of statutes that are corrupted here. There's a lot of vacancy, but the principles and the limits are all there. They're not following them. Okay, it's just like I love this guy.
We have these people that are infiltrators in the conspiracy movement.
Right. Well, we have infiltrators everywhere.
They're claiming that there's no sacrifices. There is no human sacrifices in these staged events. It's all fake. However,
some of it. Right.
However, we have live staged events that are satanic sacrifices.
Well, we just had a live.
How can you have a live staged altar with no satanic sacrifice?
Okay.
I'm just asking a question.
But you just had a live one. This baby Alfie. I want to talk about this. This baby Alfie was a sacrifice, folks. You just in international politics and news.
Everybody participated.
Everybody participated in watching the state sacrifice a child. And everyone's, if there's one, there's a million, folks, okay? And I've spoken of this for years, and I even just brought this up specifically. I specifically posed this very poignant philosophical question to people when it comes to the paradox of the state thinking it owns you and your child. When I did my speech in Nancy Schaefer, which I have online at you can just search me, Lotus Justice, and I have a YouTube channel, but I speak of this. Your own, hold on. Let me finish. Let me finish.
Conspiracy theorists anymore that are claiming that there's they're not claiming any loosh. They're not claiming any energy out of these staged events.
I know, but just a moment. Okay. As I said in the Nancy Schaefer thing, I brought this up. If your child is presumed to be owned at birth, which Britain just effectively cured in the law, we can take a doctor who's a title of nobility, and we could conspire with an esquire who is a title of nobility, and the two of us will define that we can starve a child to death, an infant to death, and that we will put police around we will put police around the ports of entry, because pursuant to the United Nations, hospitals are waterway ports. They are ports of calling, okay, where babies are birthed, vessels are birthed there. They are kicked out. They are kicked into the land versus the water there. So they put police powers around them. And they kept the parents from, and they had another country who offered comedy, who said, we'll take this child. Italy, which was proper because the Vatican is responsible for all the ills going right now.
Lotus, really quick. I just want to interject something. That's more disgusting. That's more disgusting than the truth that you're presenting. And you've made some really good points. However, there are people in the truth movement that claim to be quote-unquote conspiracy theorists that claim that these sacrifices are not real and they're staged by the government.
Well, some of them are real, though. I mean, there are false flags.
But there's real human sacrifices. That's my point.
Well, the point is, sometimes there are real sacrifices. Sometimes it's all fake, but they don't care if they have to. In 9/11, they don't care that they killed, how many people were in the Twin Towers when it fell? Even if those are the only people that died, they don't care. There's
always a death. There's always a death. There is always a death.
Right, but these are planned political events that are hiding very nefarious satanic purposes, where they use it to their benefit regardless, even if there wasn't a satanic construct behind it, even if 9/11 was just an inside job for the purposes of promoting a more militaristic police state. Yeah, but on the backside of that, the Satanists in the movement go, oh, well, we're at it. We're going to kill, and you're going to kill 10,000 people. We're going to run some little Baal priest crap over here, and we're going to pray to our god Satan while you're doing it. Is that okay? Because I know we're on the same side. That's what they're doing. It's not just even that there's this, this subversion to the instruments of the state by people who are just morally vacant people in states of men. We're talking about where on the top of that, there is I even hate to call it spiritual, but there's a spiritual construct to it of satanic negative, let's eat your babies sacrificial construct. Let's sacrifice innocence to perpetuate our systems of state. And that's what the whole repugnance of the Babylonian slave trade, that all of banking is hinged upon. This is what people don't get. We don't have a choice in this matter. We've come to know that the manner of banking that is being perpetuated in the entirety of the realm, meaning all that we know of our world, call it flat, call it round, I don't care what you call it, all that we all know as a collective in this realm, all the law, the banking in that realm is based upon the trading of humans, of people, of babies, of the commoditization of babies under the old Babylonian slave trade law that we came from. We came from that law. That was the argument that Jesus and Yeshua was arguing against. That has been the arguments of Christendom, not the heretical one. The true Christendom do not believe that men can be made slaves, that God did not intend us to be enslaved by other men. Okay, that is the Christian tenet. Children are especially not to be subjected to such iniquity. That is a Christian tenet. I think we're probably one of the few religions that believes that in the modern world. Of the three, we're not counting Buddhism and Hinduism, but of the Jewish faith and the Muslim faith and the Christian faith, the Christians are the ones that believe in equity and don't believe that babies should be trafficked, nor humans, nor women enslaved or mutilated. So we're the quote religion that has been perpetuating for 2,000 years, that this old means in which the world is being run by these states of men is morally vacant and against the Creator's will. We now all realize that that's a fact.
So we recently, it could be hearsay because it's not a credible source, and I will admit to that. However, we recently are witnessing the Pope coming out and saying that we need to replace the Bible.
Yeah, he needs to undo that which holds him. That the Bible is their chain, or their shackles. The Roman Catholics and the Zion and the children of Israel and the Pharisees, all of us are bound by the shackle.
I digress a little bit. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I need to interject because before you make this statement, it's pertinent that you also explain, who the Son of Christ is. He was an advocate.
He was, pursuant to the original tongues, he was our advocate, as in our counsel. So in law, he was someone who went up, not operating on the behalf of all. And it says in the Bible, he did this for all of us. So he went up to the prevailing law of the realm, the Roman Empire, and the Pharisees regionally.
So is it safe to say that this isn't regulated to just one religion? That he went up
this is the principle
for all of humanity, right?
Yeshua established a new kingdom, okay, kingdom of heaven, by his proclamation, in his language, in what he said in the public, and in what they have disclosed through the Bible. He has been said by witness of his 12 chosen ones, right? His jury that he chose. He basically said to the prevailing law of the realm, you are morally vacant. You are false Elohims. You are great men who presume to make rules upon all of us, and we are not bound by our creation to follow you if we're morally offended by it, And that was a new kind of, that was a
Lotus, is it safe to say that, Christ was bound or binded by these chains of religion?
He created a civilly mortis declaration. Okay. he raised the bar. He said, "You're not the kingdom that rules all of."
He was the original anarchist, you know. We don't.
Oh, he was an anarchist. But he was an anarchist. Anarchy in that I don't need states of men to be governed. That's what anarchy means. Anarchy is not okay for all you people out there. Think anarchy means put on black clothes, carry sticks, and tear up things that other people built, spend their life building. That's not anarchy. That's hooliganism, and that's criminal. Anarchy is when you don't need a state to live morally and righteously and within peace with your fellow man. An anarchist is a true sovereign because anarchists actually come together to create states of men for those who can't seem to be self-governed. The state of men is for people who cannot self-govern themselves, okay, that are not self-governing. A sovereign is above the state. You know, a king doesn't need, supposedly, under the constructs of sovereignty, as in which an example of sovereignty is a king and a fiefdom, okay? In feudalism, the king is supposed to be, in the old term of sovereignty, you became the sovereign of the tribe because you were the smartest guy, the strongest guy, you had the most wisdom, you led the people to safety, you did something for the collective that set you above all others, in that you did something for the collective that saved or helped all, not for your own good, but for everybody. And you did this
for the greater good.
Like a true leader, like a true leader. A sovereign used to be the true leader appointed by the people. In the states of men, it's the little s sovereign, and you're appointed, if you're a king, by the Pope. Okay, by your quote your blood sanguinity, but not anymore. That type of blood lineage through the big S sovereigns was broke in the 1666 Sustake Trust Act when the city of London fell. The old monarchical constructs of the British Empire fell and became an appointment of the Pope as an administrator in 1666. Okay, that was the fall of Britain, the actual republic, the people. They became administrated by the Pope in 1666 in the Sustake Trust Act. And all of the British Empire at that time was put into trust. So everything in the world in 1666 that was owned by Britain, which was the largest maritime, controlling empire, larger than Rome ever was, became put under the tutelage and the direction and the administration of the Pope, the Vatican. Now, the great thing about the New World is we were here before. There were some people in this country, in America, before 1666. The people who were brought here before 1666 in the Americas, who were of the royal lineage of the old monarchies of Europe, they still have blood lineal consanguinity, meaning blood inheritance rights to everything that used to be the British Empire. You understand? Mm-hmm. So the people of America, there are people in this country, there are thousands, tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of people in this country, maybe more, whose families were from the old monarchies and lineage of Europe that came here during the Dark Ages, as a result of the Dark Ages, who knew that Satanism that was coming into. Okay, I keep saying this all the time. Why did the Dark Ages happen? People like where they were tortured. Because they could, folks. Because they could. A form of satanic Satanism had overcome Europe. And there was the reprobate. And we knew that it has to do with all power corrupts absolutely. And so, Christ was the first person to go up to the ruling powers of the world at the time. He went before the Roman Empire and said, "You people are not my kings. I have a kingdom greater than yours." Now, he made a profession that there was a greater kingdom than Rome, guys. So I got to remember this. That is a very important declaration in law. It's, that's the civilly mortis instrument. So people have to understand this is a very long argument. It's very hard for people to think that what we're arguing now in the law goes all the way back to Christ. It's very hard for people to understand law.
And why do we have to keep rehashing this argument when we've already won it so many times over?
Well, we've won it, but we've won it. Okay, it's been won in the law. But you have to understand, you have to draw the people. The people have to come to know. We have to bring the people to know. We have to deliver them to the knowledge. And those that aren't going to come are not going to come. the people who can't see through the veil and can't see the fictions and the lies for the truths, the people who don't understand that they're not a thing and that they, it really is this basically philosophical discussion for every man, woman, and child. But the children, we have to have the argument for the children. So that's why I'm here. That's what I work for now, is I argue this construct for the children that I know for myself. And that is that, children, the state has no right to do to Alfie what they did to Alfie. That is an abomination.
I am so. I don't know. I was posting about Alfie in social media news network.
People need to use that because they do that every day in CPS court, folks. They do that every day where they steal these kids from these parents, and they're supposed to follow statutes and laws and rules and stuff. They don't do that. And they literally are just saying, we own your kid. We can do with your kid what we want. We will conspire. We will go against the natural laws of man and God. And we as the state know more than you. And that is where the doctrine of discovery and the repugnance, we thought that the doctrine of discovery was laid aside, right? That when we recognized that slavery was bad and they apologized to the Native Americans and we apologized to which they haven't apologized to the Irish slaves. I haven't noticed any apologies coming to my family's heritage, right? For the enslavement of my people.
Or my family's either. Not
but see, the whole point of that is slave. Right, but the whole concept of slavery in the modern era is described in the construct of the doctrine of discovery, where the Christendom, now mind you, that Christendom that did this doctrine of discovery are the heretics of Christ. They do not abide by the teachings of Yeshua when it comes to the doctrine of discovery papal bull that came out of the words heretical church.
So Lotus, I digress, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to interject, but I want to focus on a few things here because it's really important. My base, the people that have been listening to me for years and know our cause, its roots are in Child Protective Services, which is an out of control, unregulated state agency. They're state by state. And each individual court is a lower court, which is also unregulated, and they're incorporated. And they are definitely profiting from the fraud on the court, the lies, Vreekin versus Hardwick. If you look up Vreekin versus Hardwick, I want to stay true and to my listeners. However, this issue with Alfie really struck a chord.
Well, but it's exactly as I say to people. The state thinks it owns your child. I spoke in, like I was trying to say earlier, I spoke in that speech with Nancy Schaefer's, the weekend memorial. The state presumes that it owns your child, and your child has you have substantial rights as a flesh and blood man, and then your corporate instrument has privileges and immunities. That's the 14th Amendment citizen. People who are unknowing or slaves, 3/5 of a person, are only given privileges and immunities pursuant to the Babylonian slave trade. Well, babies have 0/5. When you're born, if you read family law, you have no right to due process, you have no right to testify, you have no right to appoint your own counsel, you have no rights at all, and you can be legally seized as a thing. Your own flesh can be. Now, the state, it's all there in the statutes and in the procedures and rules. This is how they treat our children, and this is how they treat every one of us. They perceive that the state which we created for the three branches of government that the American people created for the betterment of all people, not just the Indo-Europeans, even the Native Americans that the de jure all been defrauded. When we established this, we said all are equal. This is not about, and that all people are owed substantial rights. The legal fiction of Babylonian slave trade has now perfected its pillar of baby trafficking banking, which you have to have in order to cure the capita. I have an instrument of trust now in my hand, but right now I have an attorney, an esquire, trying to steal everything from it for me, for the purposes of their own personal lucre, because they're corrupt, not because the instruments are not divine. So we're all supposed to have this capita in our hand. That's the construct when men aren't slaves when they own their own capita 100%. Okay, I'm a vassal and a slave if I don't own my land, if I don't own the fruits of my labor, if I don't own what my intellectual property. That's the old way. A man who is a slave doesn't own his land, doesn't own his flesh, doesn't own his capita, doesn't own his property, doesn't own what he creates, doesn't own what he farms, doesn't own what he births, what he comes from his loins. They own nothing.
So I want to interject just a second here. We have listeners trying to call in on my personal line. Join the live chat, and that's how you can join the discussion. Don't try to call in on the line because you're cutting off the show. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Well, yeah, so in any case, we wanted to move from that because it was the old way. It's a failed state, and so the people created these three branches of government. They're all in coup and they're operating against you because there are agents within them hiding in these unions. Okay, there's one thing. I just read a quote and I heard this.
It's not just about the agents, Lotus. I want to bring up the actual cult nature of this oligarchy. There's a cultish nature about it, and they do collect energy. They do collect loosh, quote unquote loosh, from the drama and targeting that they do.
Okay, well, let's think about the psyche of this. Let's just go back to the doctrine of discovery. The doctrine of discovery says if you as a Christian man see something non-Christian, you can seize it and take it for your own personal gain. That is what the doctrine of discovery, the papal bull, created. Christian men, the Knights Templar and their corruptions at that time, went about the world, and if they deemed you not Christian, they could seize you, sell you, rape you, whatever they wanted to do for their own personal gain. Okay, so it's like go out, conquer in the name of our heretical church, basically. Okay, when you have such things, the type of men drawn to that dogma of absolute power to determine whether everything around you is yours to eat, rape, and take based on your spiritual constructs, that kind of creates over the time frame a sociopathic, psychopathic dogma mentality. So you have to understand that the core of people that are still perpetuating this dogma in the higher ranks of these elites, whatever you want to call them, are mentally unstable. They are sociopathic, psychopathic people who believe babies are things. They truly zero fifths. Okay, supposedly made the black slaves or any slaves at the time 3/5. Your babies are now 0/5. So if your babies are 0/5, when they're born, they're 0/5. Their babies will be 0/5. So you now have a bond racket system where upon birth, these children are so bonded into, quote, this false slavery that because nothing, all is in hypothecation. There's not supposed to be any true conveyance of flesh here, folks. This is supposed to be in negotiable instruments. Except the fact of the matter is now they're actually using negotiable instruments to take your children. They're using their hypothecations and presumptions and their implied trust agreements and their unlawful taking over of our instruments of trust against our titles of nobility amendment, which prevents them from having that authority. And they're stealing your babies in the old classical way of the old money changers. Give us your real money. We'll defraud it. We'll give you a piece of paper back. And when you run out of those, we'll take everything else you have. It goes back to the old biblical thing. You can't shackle a man lest you come into his house and shackle him in his house. It's in the Bible.
Sheep's and wolf clothing. It's been crazy ride. It's been a crazy ride. And, we're recently getting a lot more listens and views and people tuning in. And all of a sudden we see all these wolves in sheep's clothing coming out in the movement, right. And they're like, hey, we don't necessarily like your group or what you stand for. We don't know you personally, but we think it's time. We want to take down your group, and we want to pay people to do it that are already in your group.
That's the old way. That's old news. That's politics. I mean, that's really politics, folks.
And all we care about are the numbers and the size of our group.
You know what politics is? Politics, okay, this is one of my phrases. Propaganda wins the wave of discontent. Okay, if you create propaganda that creates a wave of discontent, it doesn't matter if it's true or false. You can move a political spectrum. Politics is about creating discontent and then moving the spectrum through those false impositions of discontent. They're contrived. Poverty is 100% contrived. There's no reason for poverty in our country at all. In America, there's no reason for poverty anywhere in the world. Okay, that's all contrived. I'm going to tell you, poverty is contrived. These drug wars are contrived. War in itself is contrived. It's real easy to shut down war, folks. If the Pope and the Vatican run all the banks of the nations, any nation that's at war doesn't get to make any withdrawals from the banks. Stop transacting them through the international banking structure, and you can't fund wars. If you can't fund wars, you can't have wars. So everywhere there's a war, somebody's using a bank account to buy those things. How is it that we can't shut illegal wars down when all you got to do is prove that they're using it for impermissible means in international law? It's the same thing with the Supreme Court reversing itself on foreign corporations can't be sued for acts of terrorism related to the United States. Really? You know why?
I just want to say, oh my gosh, I love my best friend.
Hold on, you know why?
I'm like the luckiest friend in the world.
You know why they say that? You know why they say that? Because there's a little organization called Serco, okay? There's a little organization called Serco that apparently all these countries hire to do their nasty, dirty paramilitary stuff.
You saw that post?
Okay.
Did I tag you in it? Yeah, I tagged you in it.
No, I got this from a guy on Facebook, and I knew this. So
I tagged you in that post regarding Serco.
So they have to. They have to. So now the Supreme Court of the United States has reversed itself and says that foreign corporations cannot be sued for liability. Okay, so they're basically saying, we're just going to let all these big mega corps, these international, transnational paramilitary corporations that we've given banking access to through our corporate structures and our Babylonian slave trade banking that oppresses fascist tyranny all over the world. And we're going to say, we can hire them, but we're going to tell you that you can't go to the bankruptcy court or the claims court of the United States and sue them for crimes against humanity or willful failures of law and all this stuff. So you have the Supreme Court of the United States basically CYA, because you know what? Every court is a foreign corporation affecting terrorism. No, seriously, every court that is not sustaining, any federal court that's not sustaining and affirming the federal statutes and the federal Constitution.
We have these.
Let me finish.
Okay.
Any court that is not sustaining the statutes and the federal construct and the supremacy clause of the federal Constitution on child custody cases are foreign corporations affecting terrorism through the constructs of the United States. So the Supreme Court just basically gave itself immunity in its last ruling. That tells you the depths of the coup, folks. They know what's coming. They know. And they just expose themselves for utterly corrupt organization. Because I get it that when it comes to repository trust law, the only thing you can do as far as compelling someone to do in a physical sense is through duty, fiduciary duty. When corporate states affect unlawful wars,
but we've determined that we don't have fiduciary duty in the courts, Lotus.
They're not following it, but they're not following it. But they are called. But their actual instrument, what they are called in the law, is a trustee exon malficio. They are a trustee. They are basically trustees in fraud. They have unlawfully. They have fraudulently conducted and wrongfully conducted themselves in the law of equity. They acquired the possession of this instrument fraudulently by our 13th Tona. Esquires should not be there. The only reason they've been tolerated to be there is and had their argument sustained. I don't know if anyone's been on my Facebook page, but there's a quote from me. It says, contracts effected in iniquity, meaning originating in iniquity, shall not be sustained in the law, which means that 200 years ago we said.
So we have people within the movement, and deeper in the movement that are perpetuating some of these false paradigms And even creating propaganda.
Sometimes it's because, okay, first off, humanity is a very ignorant species in my mind. Sometimes people come to a little bit of knowledge and they think, aha, I'm the first one to come to know. It's amazing to me that people think that, right? And it's like, no, you're not. But then they run around, they're like, the sky is falling. They want to be, Henny Penn, right? The sky is falling. I learned this.
Well, they're like, oh my god, I don't know what she's doing. I don't know what she's gonna go on the radio show next with. So I'm gonna throw a whole bunch of stuff out there and just see what sticks. Well,
like for example, we wanted to talk about the Supreme Court, and we also I wanted to talk about Alfie because that poor child. There is reason that is a state-sanctioned euthanasia. For an innocent child that they had no jurisdiction in law, under their corrupt kingdom law, maybe. I don't even know how. I would be ashamed to belong to that. I would be utterly ashamed if I was part of that state right now. Okay, so what's the difference between Nazi Germany and Britain right now?
Oh my God, it's egregious. It's egregious. The UK, you guys are out of control.
Yeah, Britain is openly Nazi now. You have had the judiciary and the doctor profession, which are both titles of nobility. There, they are title. I don't care what people want to argue; those are titles of nobility. You now have two titled nobility agents who have conspired to starve a baby to death without a diagnosis, basically, so they don't have to pay for the damage they did to the baby, is basically what it's going to turn out, and that's the profession here. You have Britain is a Nazi. They're just Nazis. They're fat. You have Nazism balls out in Germany in Britain right now. And what's the difference? Like I said, everything that Hitler did was made legal. So the courts of Britain have now made it so a doctor or a judge can order you dead. With nothing, any kid, go kill all the firstborns of all the Christians in Britain tomorrow. They could do that. So if there was an edict from a high judge in Britain that said, go out and kill all the firstborns of the Christians in Britain today, that would be a legal construct that is supported by the manner in which they're working right now. Think about that, folks. This is all over the world. This is actually their world mentality. This is their world mentality. And I've been trying to explain this to everybody for quite some time now. Okay. And it's the same here. They do it to children here. There are cases that are ongoing right now where they have taken children. And in some cases, we have one case where we think they took the child because he has a specific DNA and they want to do some military test on it. We have children being seized by federal government now. Federal government, not state government, federal instruments being complicit in seizures of children in states. They don't have jurisdiction to do that. You people do not quite understand. And here's the problem. Here's the biggest problem I'm having right now. I get it if you're an attorney and you've learned one thing versus the other, but by golly, your union is murdering people. Your union is trafficking in humans. Your union is affecting fascism. And this is the first sign of fascism is when you hear these words. When they attack one of us, they attack all of us. Okay, I've heard that said twice in the last month. Once was when they attacked a bar.
This is another thing. Internally within our own movement, Lotus, we need people to understand. Look, you're not going to win by fighting internally. We're fighting an enemy. We all have the same objective. We all have the same enemy.
Well, not only that, but we're not a union. We are a republic. Each one of us is going to walk.
We're the people, and we're the greater good. We're the people and the voice of the government. We're the last branch of government, and we need to be acknowledged, and we're not.
We're the first and the last. We are the grantors and the revokers. Okay? We are the first and the last. We are the alpha and the omega. And everything in between must adhere to our full faith and credit. Everything in between. Anything in between the alpha and the omega that does not adhere to the statutes strictly under the Constitution.
Infighting and people sabotaging other people's groups, it's got to stop. I just want to tell folks listening
I said, if it's for the purposes of appearing arrogant, get over it. I love it when people come back to me and I literally have had people come back to me and quote my own words to me. I'm like, you might want to find out where you got that. You don't need to preach to me here, right? And it's that newfound, and it's like I don't mind I love it when that happens, but people need to
omniscience to lord over people that are less informed.
Verily.
We're working really hard to inform and empower the people as the last branch of government, because we're going to be the voice that is the voice of reason that's trying to speak up against all of this. So
let's go back to the Supreme Court. Voice of reason. Cops can just shoot people. You guys really need to look. We have the benefit of history here, folks. You have a Supreme Court who just says that foreign corporations can't be sued in acts of terrorism involving the United States. Okay, one. So clearly the Supreme Court, last I heard, if you weren't a citizen of the United States, you weren't protected by the Constitution. That's what they tell the people in Puerto Rico. In secret, there are secret cases from Puerto Rico that say that the people of Puerto Rico don't have substantial rights because they're not really in the Constitution. So apparently all corporations are protected by their Constitution. See, and then you also have them say they can, cops can willfully shoot people if they fear for their life. Okay, guess what? I can shoot a cop if I fear for my life too, pursuant to the Fourth Amendment. Equal force and measure under unlawful seizures. Shall we start affecting that? I say nay. I'm going to use the law. But I tell you what, once we get to the Supreme Court... I just
want to say for the record, I'm not personally looking to fight this beast by myself.
No, absolutely
I'm actually all for supporting everybody and their platforms that are speaking out.
Right.
And I support Philly Slim. I support the Zeph Report. I support a lot of different, voices that are being very active and speaking out. And this is so important and vital to our movement on behalf of the people, because not everybody, Lotus, is as eloquent and learned as you are in the law. And we value people like you and your voice, and it disgusts me. I'm sorry. It disgusts me when people want to hinder or suppress or create dissidents within simply to service themselves. And there's a lot
it's either for arrogance, right? It's either for personal arrogance and lucre, which is not party to a larger undermining co-optation, or the people are there to actually co-opt you and undermine you and dissolve the discontent.
Person to get the cookie. I want to be the one person out there that's going to get. I want all of the accolades. Here's what I could say to that as far as a guide to looking forward, because this really is about it has to do. You will know them by their deeds, and we are at war with principles on high, with principalities. These are hidden people in unseen places. Okay, I could be seriously knocked down and checked by the Almighty at any time, and I am all the time. All the time, I'm humbled.
Right. So
I am. I go through periods of serious depression.
Well, it's a yoke. It's definitely a heavy yoke. I mean, knowing I understand that this is a divine construct. I accept it with the totality of my being, and I accept my yoke. That doesn't mean that I'm not personally hurt by what I see is our path. It still personally hurts me to know.
What I see is people that are really talented and gifted, but personally, wanting to get that cookie or be the one that's like, right. I'm hoping
that about 10 of us show up at the same time. I hope 100 of us meet at that point.
20,000 of us, a million of us show up.
But it's going to happen. It's not a matter.
I'm like, let's get everybody. Like, everybody's in on this, and I'm trying to bring together all of the armies. I'm trying to bring in New Earth United, which is 40,000 strong on Facebook, and I love you guys. You guys are awesome. New World Order Freedom Fighters, you guys freaking rock, okay? You guys are awesome.
That's our moral obligation as I said, as a moral guide, I would use this. Okay, first off, everyone should be operating in grace. The concept of grace is that Okay, you have two ways people come at you. Either they're coming at you sideways because they don't know the truth, or they're being judgmental, and you're just going to suggest, hey, I don't have to live by, So you kind of educate them as to their offenses and why you think they're wrong. If after you've educated them, particularly to law, like you do with, here's the bill in California, you don't need to argue with me that they're trying to undo they're banning the Bible in California. It's right here, okay? So once you bring the truth that's there, if they continue with, okay, now let me finish.
That are posting. This is fake
I know, but let me
news.
finish. So, if you bring the truth to them, if you do the invocation, the exhortation, the prophesizing, the way the Bible tells you, the ways to do it. If you do that and they still continue to not see the truth, then you either have a blind man or a deaf man, or you have a reprobate. There's only three options there. And so if when you bring the truth to someone in grace, they continue to operate outside the law and in dishonor, and to be aggressive towards you, and then the motive is either ignorance of the law, which is still no excuse, and because those are people that are not righteous and are not going to be trustworthy to act righteously when it gets down to it, to do the right thing, to say no, to say yes when you should, to say no when you shouldn't. I'm not going to do that. That's against the law. Cops doing what they're doing. When a cop does something against the law, it's not a righteous man. Okay. So
speaking of police, I did a radio show earlier this morning about Carlos Bolaños out of San Mateo, California, who was busted in a brothel, and he's recently campaigning to be reelected as sheriff.
Right. Well, here's my opinion about brothels. Brothels are allowed under the law.
Wait. Let me clarify this a little bit for you.
Is this a felony conviction?
Wait a second. Okay,
He ran a brothel.
I was a little bit vague. He was caught during a bust by Operation Dollhouse.
What a name.
Getting a massage. Dude, with his partner. And
well, this is what I'm going to tell you. If he was the lawman of the time and that was a law, he is a dishonorable man, and he's a fraud because he was getting paid.
We can't continue to reelect these people.
Okay, but let me finish why you shouldn't. He's a fraud. He lies. He misrepresents who he is. He was telling the people of that county he was doing this, and instead he was partaking in criminal activity. The man's a fraud. That's a dishonorable man. That's why you don't vote for the guy. That's what you're supposed to be looking at. Are people frauds? Are they forthright? Do they tell? I would rather, the funny thing I tell people, I moved up to the northern part of this nation when I was young, middle-aged, 20-something. And I said, I love the South better than I love the North. You know why? In the South, when they don't like you, they're in your face about it. I don't like you, son, because of blah, blah, blah. And you can sit and have a conversation with someone who's honest with you when they don't defraud you. See, this is the beauty of people who are honest in their discourse and come to you no matter what they believe in opposition to you. They're honorable. But in the North, they pretend that they like you and then talk bad about you behind your back. So
exactly. That's
when people come at you,
that's what I'm dealing with. I'm dealing with
that has to do with it
personally.
Right, but
however,
that has to do with the relationship born in iniquity. Again,
whenever there is a lot of people that are rooted in this mindset of iniquity. And
exactly.
And quote unquote, and let me say, just interject here, and I don't want to interrupt you. I'm going to let you finish. It's the Matrix, and we need to grow. The people in general need to grow out of this mindset. It's a disservice to humanity and ourselves when we continue to perpetuate these crimes and think that we can throw our weight around.
Well, that's the doctrine of discovery. The doctrine of discovery is when you come into a circumstance and you believe that you have the higher moral, political, gun authority, and you impose your machinations of superiority upon other people. That is what this is about.
We wouldn't have a need for karma then, right? But
right. Well, I mean that's. But when you have the total,
when we talk about it in an esoteric manner.
Yes.
You and I tend to believe that you and I
and we've
are
talked about,
you and I both, we are very close, and I tend to think that we're existentialists in this manner, that we tend
absolutely.
to think a little bit
I know I am.
picture, and I think that's why we connect on this level. However,
it's also esoteric too. This is a very esoteric
it's very
thing.
active in our movement currently, and there's some healing that needs to occur. But it needs to occur on a personal level within the people. Yep. And
one of my first videos on my YouTube channel, people talk about correcting status. I said you need to correct your morality. That's where you're wrong. The way to correct your status is to correct where you come from and how you look at the world. If you are coming into any circumstance or relationship in iniquity, where you think you're better than another, where you think Democrats are better than Republicans, you think blacks are better than whites, or whites are better than blacks. I love this example. You have a bakery that won't bake a cake, which is actually them putting their hands into a product and creating something. They can't refuse to bake a cake because someone's gay, right?
No,
okay, there's an argument.
This show is so awesome. I love this show. However, but listen, my time is running out. My battery's running low.
Right. Let me finish this one place real quick. And then you just had a guy who's a barkeeper who's just pouring a beer. He's not even making anything. And he can refuse to serve someone who's a Trump supporter because it's a political opinions are not protected. So now you have where they can deprive you for politics, but not because of your sexuality. I mean, you have to understand where we're going here with this, folks. And again, if people aren't coming to you in with grace, if they're not coming to you in comedy, meaning they're working, if you sit across from someone and you don't believe that they're coming at you with mutual beneficial behavior, and they're not going to treat you in equity, especially if that's your state. So if your state is treating you like you're a subordinate to them, that is a de facto state. That is an illegitimate state. That is not the American construct, and it's unlawful. And when those instruments of state don't conform to the laws that they're mandated to follow, that's sedition and treason. They're undermining the law when they're not conforming to their mandate. And that's what people really need to understand here. We're holding people to the law. We're not promoting violence of any kind. We're promoting the fiduciary duty of the trustees' fiduciary duties, do their job. If they won't do their job, we'll remove you. And it won't be through a rebellion. We're not going to materialistically remove you with guns. We shouldn't have to. The law is supposed to be so cured we shouldn't have to. They're just supposed to be removed for us. So that we're going to become, within the next year of our lives, we will find out very quickly what's going to happen. I mean, 6 months from now, the world's going to be a different place. I think you and I both know that, Amelia. And 6 months after that, it will be too. People are waking up. They're starting to understand that the government is more than it looks like it is, and that they're supposed to be doing more. We're not supposed to tolerate failed states. We're not supposed to be tolerating states that allow drug trafficking. We're not supposed to be allowing prosecuting attorneys or presidents to coordinate with gang members to promote drug activity. Okay, these things are not allowed in our construct, and the people who are doing that need to be removed and put in jail because they're abusing the public trust, as in the trust we gave them, and also the trust, our Jubilee trust, the monetary surety. They're running our government as a criminal enterprise. They are a criminal syndicate at this point in time. Britain has proved itself to be a criminal syndicate when it murdered a baby. Okay? It murdered a baby openly in the public eye. Britain is a criminal syndicate. It is fascist. It is Nazi now. They are one step from putting people in prison camps over there. So everyone needs to really be paying attention to what's going on, and you need to open your eyes to the truth of the matter. And if it blinds you and hurts you, well, you have two options. You can either go down with the sinking ship, or you can open your eyes and come to the truth of the matter and see the world for what it is and be on the side of righteousness. I mean, it's up to you. I can't make people see. You can't make people see. Verily, verily, folks. And,
no, I can't. And I want to say a shout out to those that, even if you're, you're not of the faith, you're an anarchist, but you still see what's right and you're speaking out on behalf of what's right. It's, kudos to you. I want to call out those shows, but, I don't have that omission. I don't know.
Right, and I want to leave us with one. There's a Roman maxim called "Sedat arma toga," toge. I may say it right. Sedat arma toge, and it means let the sword yield to the toga. Okay? Let war yield to reason. We are supposed to be making sure that the law is affirmed. Okay? Let justice be done, though the heavens may fall, is actually my motto. It's a maximum as well. The law must be abided. It doesn't matter how painful. If Hillary broke the law, we are a banana republic if we don't put her in prison. Okay? If we don't put these criminals in prison who occupied our state, we are a banana republic. We are not afforded the authority to abide by the laws when we feel like it and not abide by them when they're politically uncomfortable. The law is the law. Mm-hmm. If they are not going to affirm the law, then they shall not keep our trust. Only those who affirm our law and protect the construct will be allowed to retain as trusteeships. That's what's going to happen. So anybody who's in the state of state, if you don't start following the law, you're not going to be there. We're not. This is not a will. Everyone is equitable.
Yeah. And if you know, even if we're going to see you, even if you have opposing views, we're not going to silence you. You know, we're not going to silence your voice. And
no, if not, it's a win. And my son is as powerful and equitable under the fourth crown as the Pope and anybody else in
these living beings, these children have a voice, and we're their platform. And anybody
more than anybody, than anybody, they have a voice.
Yeah, and they have a voice. The portal to justice. I love you, Lotus.
I love you too. Thanks for the Sunday coffee.
Oh, you're so welcome. I look forward to it every month.
Pray. If anyone wants to touch base with me, you can get on my YouTube channel is under Lotus Justice. It's called Madly Arts, I think, and I have tons of videos there. You can my contact information's on the page there. We're always looking for funding, folks. We do this stuff all by our own hand. We are not governmental funded anyway. You know, this is true grassroots. These are just concerned citizens. Most of us with altruism, citizens of a civil society. You know, wanting a civil world, just trying to correct the course of law and to protect these children. We're doing what the government's not doing. We're doing what the attorneys aren't doing. We're doing what the judges aren't doing. Okay, so you know, we're going to start looking into people to if you can't do, then let's start helping.
That's right.
Doing these things because we're getting there.
That's right.
You all. Namaste. And the rest of your Sunday.
All right. Oh my gosh, folks, that was Lotus Justice, my best friend, and I love her. She's a huge warrior for the truth and justice. Ms. Lotus Justice was just with us on the portal to justice, the window to the truth. All right, guys. Oh my gosh, exciting show, and thank you so much for everybody that's tuning in because it's incredible. I had no idea so many people were tuning in, and I am humbled and thankful and thrilled. And I love all of you, and all of you that are open-minded and thinking outside the box, because we need solutions. Be a part of it. All right. Tune in on the Porthole to Justice and subscribe to the show for free. You can subscribe on Spreaker.com and join the live chat. All right, everybody, I gotta head out. Oh my gosh, I'm trying to speak really fast. I love you. Mwah! And I'm gonna close out the show with a Zeph Daniels song. Oh my gosh. Loaded artist. Mr. Zeph Daniels, War Drums.
Take what you have. Stand up for yourself. Stand up for yourself. Stand up for yourself. Stand up for yourself. They map in secret.